Hello again, my name is Anita Broach, and today's talk is related to the preservation practices in the traditional Mediterranean diet, part 2 of the two-part presentation. And thank you again to Daniela and her team at the Mediterranean Diet Roundtable for inviting me to give this talk. We all know about the foods present in the Mediterranean dietary pattern. What's important is that the local seasonal ripe fruits and vegetables are used in the seasons when available, and for the rest remaining part of the year, mostly for the winter months, these foods are being preserved. That contributes to the lower food waste. We know that the Mediterranean diet was developed or originated as a diet of poor, as the diet of the peasants. So the people work very hard to produce the food, and what is extra was preserved for the remaining part of the year. So I'm going to touch on the preservation practices used in many of the Mediterranean countries, and most of them are on natural ways of preservations, and the health benefits of this preservation, preserved food, and especially the benefits on the gut health. Here are just some examples of how the vegetables and fruits, herbs and spices are being used in different types of products. In particular, natural preservation methods, as I said, are used in the Mediterranean countries to preserve the food, such as sun drying, salt curing, smoking, pickling with vinegar, other types of fermentation processes, preservations with herbs, preservations in extra virgin olive oil or other types of fats, preservation in honey, and etc. Let's look at the fermentation processes. No additional preservatives or some other toxic chemicals compounds are being added. Only the natural microflora present in the vegetables in the food to be fermented is used. You just need to provide the necessary conditions like anaerobic conditions, acidic environment, the food, the vegetables to ferment. Single type vegetables like here, or multiple vegetables combined, cut or whole vegetables, along with spices and herbs are being preserved. In fact, these fermented vegetables are naturally fortified functional foods, plenty of nutrients, and a mixture of prebiotics and probiotics. For example, the salt water brine fermentation, you are using only the salt water. The fermentation process is longer and in anaerobic conditions, but you are ending up with dish with fermented vegetables full of prebiotics, non-digestible and digestible fibers, and microflora, beneficial bacteria. In the pickling of the vegetables with vinegar, preferably it's done with the apple cider vinegar, you're ending up with different types of microflora, and again, fermentation done in acidic environment. So you're trying to promote the growth of beneficial bacteria and suppress the growth of the toxic or harmful or non-beneficial bacteria. Why the fermented products are causing so much interest of the scientific community in the past 5 to 10 years? Because it's found that the fermented foods modulate the gut microbiota, the composition, the diversity, the activity, the stability of the microbiota in the human guts. Why it's important? Because first of all, 80% of our immune system is located in the gut. Thus, consuming of the fermented foods, promoting that gut microbiota will boost the immunity, and also reduce risk for inflammatory processes, autoimmune diseases, food allergies diseases, and etc. In fact, Hippocrates said, beside his non-quote, "Let's food be the medicine," he said also 2000 years ago, all diseases begin in the gut. This quote in particular, maybe 20, 30 years ago, was disputed. Medical doctors, scientists thought that not all diseases, but just the metabolic diseases start in the gut. But nowadays, we know gut has been related through the gut-brain axis to mental diseases. Depression has origin into the gut. Gut has been related to eyes health, to skin health, gut eye, gut, skin oxys has been confirmed. So maybe Hippocrates was correct that all diseases in fact start into the gut. Here, this picture is from a last year scientific publication by the researchers at the Stanford University. Two groups of people were subjected to high fiber diet and to the high fermented food diet. What they found, very good outcomes in the both groups of people tested. In the first category, the group subjected to the high fiber diet improved microbiome function was observed. Also, stability of the gut microbiome was observed. In the second group of people subjected to the high fermented food diet, the same activity, improved activity, stability of the gut microbiome was observed. But in addition, it was observed diversity of the microbiome in the gut. And that's very important because you need that diversity, different types of bacterial strain in the gut in order your body to be able to process different types of food. In fact, the food allergies are exactly why what happens in the gut. The gut is lacking some of the strains, some of the bacteria to process that type of food. Let's say people sensitive to nuts, having allergies on tree nuts is because they are lacking certain bacteria to process the nuts upon digestion. Perfect example is the fermented garbage used widely in many countries in the Mediterranean in different ways. Shredded and fermented, or as a whole garbage fermented, again, longer process of fermentation in brine, but provides basis for many dishes, can be eaten as it is, raw, fermented garbage, plenty of nutrients, plenty of health benefits, but can be used also further to cook some traditional dishes like this stuffed garbage leaves or cold sarma in my country. Again, maybe even during the cooking or boiling, you're destroying some of the nutrients, but adding this food or adding to it salads and some other matrices, you're providing again the whole spectrum of nutrients consumed during the Mediterranean meals. Another preservation method is the preserving the vegetables in extra virgin olive oil. What here, the extra virgin olive oil, besides being extracting medium for polyphenols and other nutrients to come into the olive oil matrix and thus becoming more bioavailable for our body, the olive oil is isolating the food from the air, providing as a seal or delaying the process of oxidation and molding of the vegetables. Before immersing the vegetables in olive oil, usually frying or roasting or grilling the vegetables, and then you're stacking in jar or some other dishes and close tightly so they can be preserved for 3, 4, 5 months. Addition of plenty of garlic and herbs like rosemary, basil, parsley are very common to be added, and all of that mixture is eaten as a good relish for the winter months, as a side dish or as an appetizer. One other example of preservation with olive oil is this roasted red pepper spread, very popular in the Balkan part of the Mediterranean. You can add also roasted eggplant, but it's extremely tedious process, sometimes can last 2 days, 2 whole days, depending on the amount that you are preparing. And this is a perfect example that the food cannot be considered isolated in the Mediterranean diet. It's always those lifestyle habits, behaviors of the people. For example, this is a perfect example of a ritual, of a family tradition, the extended family to gather together and prepare this preserved food. All the whole neighborhood, several families coupled together and doing the process together over the weekend. Or where I grow in that small town, you can know in around October, in October weekends, which neighborhood is making ayvar. The very nice smell of roasted red peppers you can feel all over the town. The process is roasting fire roasting of the red peppers and the eggplants, then manually peeling them, mincing them and frying in extra virgin olive oil with herbs, and sometimes with garlic, with allium vegetable. Serving as a spread, as a dip. But this is very popular spread for the kids in that area, and it's more popular than, let's say, peanut butter or any kind of other spread for the kids. Another method is the sun drying of vegetables, fruits, and herbs and spices. Very popular method, inexpensive, natural way of preserving the food for the winter months. Preservations with herbs is also existing. Let's say the dry herbs mixing with salt. You are providing variety of seasonings for the traditional dishes to prepare all year around. And with that, you're reducing the salt, the amount of salt in the traditional dishes, because most of the flavor aroma is provided and salt is not needed. What else is this dried or fresh herbs and spices used for infusion of vinegars, different types of vinegars, and making balsamic vinegars, but also different infusions of the olive oil. Besides olive oil extracting these nutrients, those nutrients act to stabilize the olive oil and prolonging the shelf life of the olive oil. This inspired us, me and my sister, to prepare certain natural preparation, extraction of olive oil and from a single herb. It's a patent pending. I cannot disclose the herb, but what happened? That natural extraction, just some temperature used for the extraction of the herb into the olive oil, was subjected to test against bacteria and viruses in 2 independent labs in UK, in the US, and shows very high antimicrobial activity. In particular, in just 30 seconds of this contact of this olive oil rich with the herb extract was killing or deactivated 97% of the human coronavirus, prolonging the contact time even more efficient. It shows also high efficacy against the flu virus, influenza A, and some other virus. Very high activity, deactivating activities against gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, such as Staphylococcus and Escherichia coli. This prompted us to compile also all the knowledge known in the scientific literature and traditional knowledge and publish this manuscript, which will come, it's still in the process of publishing, and I hope it will be published this year. But here in this manuscript, all the knowledge known in science and traditional knowledge about the Mediterranean herbs and spices, about the wild plants used as different remedies in the folk medicines are compiled. And this is just part of that knowledge, folk knowledge, how different plants, especially wild plants, have been used as remedies for preparation of teas or balms or ointments, or used as a tinctures to prevent different infections, but also like remedies, let's say, for insect bites or for some mental stresses, for anxiety or disorders, and etc. Another method of preservation in honey. Yeah, desserts can be prepared like nuts, fruits, and spices, in particular clove and cinnamon, preserved in honey. Very good, highly antioxidant dessert. Sweet, again, the high calorie value, but extremely powerful and rich in nutrients. Raw honey also is has been used for preparation of different honey herbal remedies, like with rosemary, sage, and thyme, fresh or dry, subjected in raw, immersed in the raw honey, and different remedies that can fight cold, flu, different infections, especially on the respiratory organs. In my country, this remedy, fermented garlic in honey, has been used for ages and really suppresses, let's say, even if you get flu, suppresses the flu effects or consequences or cut the healing time, boosts immunity, for example, on use in raw honey. And honey is a good medium for preservation because it's rich with enzyme. oligosaccharides, different sugars, but also access antioxidants, and it's acidic in nature, and that acidic environment doesn't allow microbial growth, the harmful microbial to be developed. Another preservation method that I like, particularly the food coming out of this method, is with fermented dairy products, let's say with mozzarella, with feta cheese, or with curds. So let's say paper stuffed with curds and then immersed in brine, or again immersed in curds, added oregano, dill, or thyme, or rosemary herb. A perfect dish for the winter months, used as a side dish, relish, or as an appetizer. I cannot explain the taste, but it's a tangy, sour taste, perfect combination to the traditional roasted, let's say, dishes in the Mediterranean with roasted meat and etc. Fruits have been preserved in a different ways, as jams, marmalades, preserves. Fruit juices are very common, and the compotes in the Mediterranean country. Some of the jams are additionally spiced, and that means enriched with spices like clove and cinnamon. Then you have preservation in alcohol for the adults. And this is the end of my two-part presentation, and I hope that I convince you that the Mediterranean diet is a nutrient-rich, indulgent, and flavorful dietary pattern. It's also a healthy and enjoyable lifestyle. Everything what you do, preservation, cooking the food, you're doing in company with others, with neighbors, with friends, with extended family. You saw also that it's a therapy too. If adhering to it, it can provide a good overall physical, mental health, and well-being. And also there is evidence that adhering to the Mediterranean diet can provide happy and long lives. Thank you for your attention.